the controversial practice of conversion therapy, what one European nation is doing to outlaw the practice. Plus, the ultimate partnership. I talked to a renowned composer and librettist about their marriage and newest work. And hiding his sexuality, what Jonathan Knight is saying about his early days in New Kids on the Block. Welcome to Advocate Today. I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist, and thank you for joining me. The UK government is moving forward with plans to ban conversion therapy. Legislation still has to be reviewed by a committee. The measure would apply to young people and adults who did not consent to conversion therapy. A similar piece of legislation was discussed back in 2021, but it was dropped last year. In the US, 21 states have some sort of conversion therapy ban. Music can have a profound impact on one's world outlook. A composer and librettist are introducing a new piece of lyric theater. Husband team Tobias Picker and R.A. Lev Stolman's opera Awakenings is based on the 1973 novel by Oliver Sacks. Awakenings author Oliver Sacks was a closeted gay man until he was 82. Stolman acquired the stage rights to the novel, and the two are bringing the story to life in a one-night-only event. I connected with Tobias and Aryeh about the origins of this project, working together as a married couple, and being married by the one and only Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Hello, welcome Tobias Picker and Aryeh Lev Stolman, the creative team behind Awakenings the Opera. Tobias, you're a composer, and Aryeh, you're a librettist, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Wonderful. Well, congratulations on the opera that is being mounted at Odyssey Opera in Boston with the Boston Modern Orchestra. And I wanted to first begin by asking you, Tobias, you gained the rights to Oliver Sacks's book Awakenings, I think about 25 years ago. And would you talk a bit about your background with Dr. Oliver Sacks and the book?
Yes, he gave me the rights.
You gave them to, yes.
They were his, not mine. Now, well, we were friends since the early mid '90s, and we we talked. Well, um, he he was very fond of my music, and would attend concerts and operas, and we used to go out to dinner from time to time. And anyway, we were friends, and uh, the idea came up about adapting one of his works for the stage, and he suggested Awakening.
Aryeh, I wonder if you would talk a little bit about what this opera is about. I did some reading. I had never heard about the sleeping sickness before. I did not see the Penny Marshall film based on the
Mhm.
book. And so it's encephalitis lethargica.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Would you talk a little bit about that? And
in the beginning of the 20th century, from about 1916, 1927, there was a epidemic of encephalitis lethargica, just a fancy way to say sleeping sickness. We don't really know the cause, but people who were afflicted, they either died or many of them who survived developed Parkinsonian-like symptoms and became frozen. They couldn't move, they couldn't talk, and it wasn't until the 1960s when I'm also a neuroradiologist, a physician, just explaining.
just that.
Yeah. They started using higher doses of L-dope on Parkinson's patients, and Dr. Sachs had the idea that these patients who had all been put away in institutions all over the world, huge numbers of people, and these were survivors of maybe 40 years, who were the later survivors. He tried giving them L-dopa in large doses to awaken them from their frozen state, which they did. And this is a story about them and their struggles, their awakenings, their tribulations, because they did awaken and they had very happy moments, but the side effects of L-dopa at that time were really very difficult for them. They developed tics and other hallucinations, so many of them couldn't stay on L-dopa and had to go back to their, frozen sleeping state.
Tobias, I had read that Dr. Sacks's work and the book, and correct me if I'm wrong, uh, helped you with a struggle with Tourette's, and I wonder if you would talk to that for a moment.
Well, yes, we originally met because I he was kind of an authority on Tourette's, and he wrote a lot about it. Um, and so uh, I wanted to meet him to see if he could help me. And it wasn't just this book that this was a culmination of kind of all of it, but it was just spending time with him that and talking with him about my Tourette's. I wasn't his patient, but just as a friend who had observed many people with Tourette's and written about them, um, uh, helped me accept myself, accept this as part of myself. Just discussing it with him and his interest in it, and just his he was such a humanist, he made me realize that everybody has something.
Aryeh, I asked you earlier about the sleeping sickness, and I was shocked to read that 500,000 people died. I mean, that was kind of huge numbers. And I wonder if you would talk a bit about mounting this opera, considering, the place that all of humanity is coming out of these I mean, we're not out of it, but these 3 years of a pandemic, and if that feels different than when you were first writing the libretto.
Some people said it was millions died,
Hmm.
but it was probably 500,000, at least a million. I read different accounts because it was hard to. It was also wartime, so the
Right.
number of people that were, that died from this is complicated. But it was huge numbers, and the survivors were also huge numbers. There were huge institutions built. But when we wrote it, this was before COVID, and we finished it before COVID.
So you two are married. Uh, and this is incredible. Ruth Bader Ginsburg performed your ceremony, which
At
is
the Supreme Court. Yeah,
amazing. And I mean, well,
In the music room of the Supreme Court, because
that's
she loved
incredible
not,
because
she
not
she's
in
loved
the
a
court.
big
Not
opera
in,
fan. Yeah,
yes, she came to all of Tobias's operas, or most of them. She was a big fan of Tobias.
that that's incredible. I wonder, as a married couple, would you talk a little bit about your process of composing and writing the libretto together? And I'll go to you, Tobias.
When we wrote Awakenings, it was different from the way I'd approached other operas, where I had a complete finished libretto before I started the music. In this case, I stayed one scene. Arye stayed one scene ahead of me. I would get a scene, and then I would write it, and he would be writing the next scene, and then he would come down here, and I would play it for him, and we talk about it, and maybe make some changes. Usually, I wanted some word changes, and we talk about the word changes, and then it just proceeded that way, step by step. And so the collaborate. I don't know that I could collaborate with anyone else that way. My other librettists, once the libretto was done, then they didn't get to hear it scene by scene, but
Yeah.
he got to hear every scene as it was written, and was very much a part of the process.
Thank you to Tobias and Aryeh for stopping by. My full interview with them is available on the Advocate Channel YouTube page. The East Coast premiere of Awakenings will be the first performance in the reopened Huntington Theater in Boston. It's a one-night only event, and the tickets are available now for Saturday, February 25th. A former New Kids on the Block star says he was pressured into hiding his sexuality during the band's early days. Jonathan Knight says the group's manager knew that he was gay but urged him to keep his sexuality a secret, saying if anyone found out, his and the band's career would be over, and that Sony would lose a lot of money. The now 54-year-old singer revealed last year that he had married his longtime partner. Knight was the first to leave the band in 1994. Thank you for joining me on this Advocate today. For more content and coverage that advocates for you, head to advocatechannel.com or the Advocate Channel YouTube page. I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist. I'll see you next time.